Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Friday, April 10th, 2026, and today we are sanitizing our seed trays, talking about AI in the art and farming space, and it is Feedback Friday, so let's do it. All right, happy Friday, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and feeling well and all of those good things. Had a lovely day yesterday here on the farm, doing odds and ends around the farm in the morning. I think I did some mowing of the pathways, a little cultivation, but then doing some seeding with the kiddos in the afternoon. That was fun. Got some bush beans started, mostly for ourselves. That's not one we sell a lot of. Got the peanuts going, got some summer squash going as well, which is actually quite late for me. I usually start those in March. I don't know what I was doing in March. I think I was just voiceless and kind of depressed about it. But anyway, that's all good because I'm not trying to beat the rush to the farmer's market, so doesn't really matter. Lettuce started, of course, always starting lettuce, it feels like. So the season is well on its way. How about you all? How's the season coming along? Loved those farm video clips yesterday from listeners about the paper pot from one, and then Brian with the living mulch trial. Always cool to see those things, and feel free to send your 20-second farm video clips along to farmermike@no-tillgrowers.com. Anyway, it is Friday, which means Feedback Friday, where we explore what you all were saying about this week's topics. On Monday, we talked potatoes to complement the video you saw the other day, plus pre-filling trays and growing under spruces and pines. At Chad Eller asked, quote, "Hey Jesse, great content as always. I'm wondering why you don't treat your freshly cut seed potatoes with drying/preserving material such as powdered sulfur, ag lime, wood ash, or a blend of these. I guess your success with overnight air drying implies that you don't have significant trouble with disease. What is your threshold of damage before adopting such a practice?" End quote. In fact, I'm going to add to this. At Jane W. asked a similar question, quote, "I thought you can use wood ash to seal your potato cuts, yes or no?" End quote. So no, I mean, you can. I do not do that. And I would not put wood ash or ag lime or definitely not sulfur on the potatoes because these are largely fungicides in this particular case. And you may ask, now, what about the risk of pathogenic fungus? Well, to avoid disease, start with certified seed. That's a really important place to start. Sanitize your cutting and storage equipment, and then make sure your soil is robustly healthy and you should not have those problems. Not saying you might not run into the occasional disease issue, but I certainly have never had any significant fungal disease problems in 17 years of cutting and planting potatoes without treatment and just letting them air dry overnight. I'd skip that unless you have specific concerns. Also that day, at Mads Arnatov wrote, quote, sort of narratively here, "No-till growers," looks inside, "tilling, might be time to change the channel name rather than apologizing for living up to it in real life," end quote. And I get some sort of comment like this sometimes, and it's fine. I have resigned to the fact that I will have to spend the rest of my days explaining that not every no-till situation can, or frankly should, be started without tillage if you want the soil to be healthy and for it to succeed. And that dogma will ultimately be more harmful to your soil than a one-time tillage would be. Like, if I just got on here and said, "Hey dudes, just cover your soil with compost and straw and plant into that, no tillage ever," well, some wildly large percentage of you would end up with soil so contaminated you couldn't grow in it ever, or an impenetrable compaction layer, or a polluted water table, or all of the above. So yeah, no-till is a goal, not the means, and that's why it's in the name. There is literally information about every type of no and low-till practice and how to get there on this channel, so maybe look inside a little deeper. That might be helpful, specifically to your soil. On Tuesday, I talked about the commons in the Middle Ages, crop planting, seeding long season crops directly, plus shovels. And I don't know that I've ever had a more controversial take than my shovel take. At Philiflom wrote, quote, "Sorry, man, I'm generally down with what you're saying, but I'm team rounded shovel over here. There is a time and place for a flathead shovel, but for me, 85% of the time, that time and place is using it to pop ice off of the pavement so I can help stuck cars become unstuck. I find that while the rounded head shovel, has a lower payload, the reduced payload helps my back strain less, as well as the ease of use in as much as how easily it can handle versatile digging conditions versus a square head makes me use a rounded head shovel almost exclusively. But to be fair, I'm growing in fancied up glacial till, end quote. Indeed, several people went in different directions than me on the shovels. I just love my square head shovel. I feel like I use it a lot. But at 4-Day Homestead wrote, quote, I need a new handle for my pointed spade shovel. My go-to is a potato fork, end quote. And I have to say, when I really got to thinking about, shovels and that sort of stuff, I realized how much I rely on my pitchfork too. A lot of the composting footage that I was looking through, just to have some B-roll for you, and that I have shot over the years, pitchfork. I think a pitchfork episode may be in order, but does it rival the shovel? You all be the judge. More good comments on the Middle Ages and Commons stuff than I can ever get to. At NRBRT Muller wrote, quote, did that book mention how 90% of the land was owned by nobles that rented it to the peasants and then demanded 10% of the harvest in taxes? Everyone that fished in the large lakes and rivers did so after paying a fee for the privilege, end quote. It does talk about lords and that sort of stuff, but also cool. That does make these ideas even more applicable to today. At Lays Dong wrote, quote, it turns out that regulation is good, actually. Regulation protects the public good. It's amazing that we've been propagandized against our own interests by people who are stealing from the public good, end quote. This is actually something that has long baffled me. Regulations largely just keep big corporations from poisoning our air and drinking water and soil, yet the number of people who rely on those things but who also oppose regulations is staggering. What sucks about regulations is that they are often not nuanced. So a small company often has to meet the same regs as a large company, and that's just often not feasible. But that's not the fault of the regulation itself or the reason that the regulation exists. That's the fault of the way it's written and designed, which can be more easily fixed than the damage wrought by getting rid of said regulation, like the EPA is doing with basically all of them right now. Anyway, we need more regulations, especially environmental regulations, just with more nuance, not fewer regulations. That's not the idea. But, I like breathing clean air and drinking clean water, so perhaps I'm a little biased. On Wednesday, we went live after 3 valiant tries. Very proud of pulling that off, despite YouTube's best efforts to derail it, touche. I talked to a couple times about broccoli and other brassicas in that conversation, in the north first, growing them in the south. And at Asteria wrote, quote, growing cool weather crops in the south, hot take from a northerner, we can't grow citrus or sweet potatoes. You can't grow broccoli and cabbage. It's fine. Let it go. This is the location we chose. To be fair, I think oranges and sweet potatoes are better than broccoli and cabbage. Make friends with a northern farmer and trade, end quote. Now, to be fair, I can't grow oranges either, and it genuinely depresses me sometimes, but also you can grow sweet potatoes. There are some northern varieties that can grow well into Canada. They are shorter season and not going to be as good as mine, but none are as good as mine, but it is possible. However, your idea about making friends with northerners makes me think back to that dream that I talked about last year of having 3 farms as one entity, like one in Florida, one in Kentucky, conveniently, and one in, say, like Michigan. Then you just move produce up and down I-75 or whatever the connector is there. And in the summer, when Florida can't produce, say like lettuce very well, the middle and the northern farmers are shipping that down. And in the winter, the Florida farmers are shipping up things like tomatoes, but also citrus. Then the northern farmers can come down and take a little break in Florida for the winter, and the Floridians can go and take a little break up north in the summer. That's perfect. It's a master plan. Thanks to everyone who came out and asked questions for that live. I didn't get to every question, but my allergies were going bananas, so I had to stop at an hour. Then on Thursday, we covered 6 different topics, from changing plans on cover cropping to collective spreadsheets and more. At Wendy Eames asked, I would like just a walkthrough or pan of what you have growing, including close-ups of bugs and all, no voice or even music needed. Do you have a drone? End quote. I feel like I did 2 of those last year. I think I did. I don't remember. I mean, with music and me blabbering, because it is still a podcast, so, it's kind of hard to just show pictures on a podcast. So I can do more of that sort of thing. As for the drone, technically, yes, it's like 10 years old at this point and not the most reliable thing in the world. It likes to just drop out of the sky sometimes and sometimes just fly off. But I can usually get it in the air for a few minutes every year. So maybe next week I'll give it a shot and see if that thing doesn't fly off on me or just crash into the high tunnel like it wants to do. At Dwight Yoder mentioned, quote, hey, Jesse, you might have what we call a Grady pond, minimal water source, but an impermeable layer that prevents seepage and no outflow. Very interesting feature. We have a few near us in Mobile, Alabama, end quote. Interesting. I've never heard that term before, but thanks, Dwight. As always, you all have been amazing in the comments. That's 2 weeks back with a voice too. That feels good. And I appreciate you all, your well wishes there. It's good to be back. You all rock. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk seeding tray sanitizing like you do on Fridays. BRB.
husband's laughing at me because I've been sitting at the bathroom window just staring at my garden, obviously because it's raining, otherwise I'd be out there, but I can't help it. Spring is the best time of year, and I love my garden.
Today's episode is brought to you by Rimmel Greenhouses.
Whether it's tomatoes to market, flowers in the spring, or your family's harvest, growing in a greenhouse protected from the weather provides the right environment that you need for a harvest that you can count on. Rimmel Greenhouses are designed for durability and offer the quality that you need to grow productively year-round. Visit rimmelgreenhouses.com to get a quote today.
If I may editorialize for a second, I own a Rimmel tunnel. I love it. We built it ourselves, and I really appreciated the quality of the tunnel as well as the customer service we received in the process. So make sure to check them out.
If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere the questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Livesring, who asks, quote, how do you clean nursery trays between seed starts? Best practice, end quote. And this is a great question, not something that has come up very much, surprisingly, but cleaning seed trays can come in handy in terms of disease prevention on your seedlings. So first, why does it matter if you clean your trays? Well, you certainly don't want to transfer any pests or diseases if possible. Like, for instance, slugs will sometimes take up residence in the crevices of your trays, and you don't want to exactly give them nice, fresh plant start to go after. And like I said, there may be soil pathogens as well that hang out in the soil particles left after transplanting. Moreover, a bonus that doesn't get considered is that when you are transplanting from a seed tray, you may be dragging it through the soil as you plant and picking up diseases or weed seeds, and especially in the case of the living pathways, that weren't present in the seed tray when you brought it there. So it is generally a good idea to clean seed trays even if you don't see an issue in the plant starts that you planted. But how does one do that efficiently? Well, larger scale commercial growers actually have little machines that they can physically just run the trays through, or basically like dishwashers, but for trays, tray washers. And that does that obviously super efficiently. Most of us are not going to be able to financially justify such a contraption. Instead, we have to think in terms of the biggest bang for the buck. For me, it's a card table. Just sitting out in the sun. Yep, just a card table sitting in the sun where I set the transplant trays after transplanting to let them sun sanitize and dry out. Then I can usually either just rinse them off before I need them, or bang them off and then rinse them off and then, put them back where they go. You don't want to leave them out there forever, obviously, because the sun will wear them down and they'll last for a while, but they will eventually break down. But a few days in the summer is usually sufficient, and it's even better if they get a little bit of rainfall and some sun on them. And so, yeah, whenever they've been out there for a while, I usually just bang off the dry soil and maybe rinse them off and then stick them back in the shed where they, where we keep our trays, and then I can use them later. Now, you could also have a table like that and just spray them off and let them dry, and then, go ahead and reorganize them too. Or you could just spray them with some sort of isopropyl alcohol or something like that just immediately sanitizes them if you need them right away. But I just like to be as passive as possible with these things and prefer the set it and forget it methods for most non-value adding activities. Value adding just meaning things that lead directly to income. Washing bins, for instance, is always a huge bottleneck for us. So I try to avoid as many tasks like that as possible and try to make them as quick and easy as possible. It's nice if you can just make a system out of it. So for me, what that has looked, or at least looked like last year, was that I would, take the tray to the field, I'd plant, set the tray on the table in the sun after I was done planting. Then when I was washing bins for harvest later in the week, like we'd harvest, we'd have all these empty bins that needed cleaning, then I would go ahead and wash my seed trays at that same time. So I had a little system around it, and that helps. You could also just, wash them immediately after you plant. But I like a bit of sun sanitizing. And again, it's kind of the passive way of doing it. Anyway, what do you all do, if anything, for your seed trays? Let us know. And otherwise, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to look at farming, art, AI, and oh my. Yeah, sure. All right, be right back.
Hey, it's Jasmine in North Alabama. Just wanted to show you guys this pink lemonade blueberry bush. As you can see, it was full of buds that are dead. So this got hit with that cold, I guess it was a couple weeks ago now. I covered it, but it was in the 20s. There was really no saving them. So this is where we are now.
Today's episode is brought to you by Grown By. Grow smarter with Grown By, the farmer-owned cooperative. Grown By is the platform for online sales of everything, custom and traditional CSAs, halves of beef, flower bouquets, wholesale to restaurants, and now Grown By supports in-person sales too. Their new app, Grown By Register, you can supercharge your market and farm stand, finally bringing together your online and offline sales and customer data. Grown By is proud to make local food accessible by processing SNAP benefits online and in person right within the app. Grown By helps you put your best food forward. Schedule a demo at coop.grownby.com/no-till. That's coop.grownby.com/no-till. Today's episode is also brought to you by Good Agriculture. Good Agriculture handles farm bookkeeping and tax filing, so there is no scrambling at tax time. They keep your books clean and up to date and show you where your farm's finances stand. If you're behind, they'll get you caught up. They also help farmers find funding and stay ahead of grant deadlines. You run the farm, they help the business. Learn more at goodagriculture.com/info. That's goodagriculture.com/info. All right, back to the show.
All right, so I was reading this fascinating article the other day in the New York Times about a novel that was being pulled from the shelves over accusations that AI was used to produce it. The book is called Shy Girl. It was originally a self-published book, I guess, and that was picked up by a larger publisher, but it sounds like readers of the book flagged specific things like confusing metaphors and repetitive phrasing that were reminiscent of artificial intelligence. The author contends they did not use AI, but says that the editor of the book did. And I guess welcome to the future of the publishing industry. But it had me thinking about some things. And you know how I feel about AI at this point. I hate that it's used for art in any way, shape, or form, but it's about to completely change the way people produce books, videos, podcasts, all of it. There is going to be no easy way to prove or trust that something someone creates is not generated by AI, especially as the AI gets better and better, which it does on a daily basis, if not hourly basis. Plus, there is a direct opposition to any regulation from the current administration to slow that down or make it impossible to put something out as real when it is fake. So this is including your next farm book or farm video or article or podcast. They may very well be made by AI. And even if some technology for accurately identifying AI works, AI will figure out a way around it, so we won't know if it's made by humans or machines. I mean, generative AI can make realistic freaking videos from scratch, something that seemed unimaginable just as 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And you may think, okay, so what's the problem with that? Who cares if AI is involved in the writing process or just creates the content itself? Well, beyond the innumerable copyright infringements AI engages in with every single answer or piece of content it creates for anyone and makes money for its creators with, the most important part about art is hardly the art itself. It's the work that it took to create it. We have never loved art just because it's fun to look at. We've loved art because it inspires awe. That, say, Michelangelo was able to so masterfully paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in the 1500s standing on scaffolding, or that Jane Austen completed her first draft of Pride and Prejudice in 1797 at the age of 21, but her books weren't published until she was in her 30s, at which point they were published anonymously, largely because she was a woman. Native Son is a superb and heart-pounding novel on its own, but it is made even more profound by the fact that Richard Wright published Native Son in the early 1940s at a time when speaking out about being a black person in a white society was an exceedingly dangerous thing to do. The story is great, and the story behind the story makes it a significant work of art. Another, side of all this is just the work it takes to get to the point of being able to produce art. I'm an okay writer, and it's taken me 20 years to get okay at it. My wife is a great painter. She asked for paper for Christmas when she was a kid so she could draw endlessly, and ultimately studied painting in Florence for a year to become a portrait artist, a profession that will famously never make much money, but now AI is making even more difficult to have as a career. To summarize something she said about this is that generative AI, art replicating AI, was created by rich dudes who wanted to be seen as artists but didn't actually want to do the work required to become an artist. And indeed, I saw one of those bros called the work required to make art gatekeeping, which is cute. And the same thing could be said about information like farming information. They want to share the insight but not do the work it takes to learn said insight. So talent and hard work is just another thing stolen from hardworking people by the wealthy. Context matters and the work matters in art. Art is never about the art itself. It's about the story and the skill it took to create it, to get that idea out of the brain of the artist and into a form we all get to interpret and enjoy. Everyone has good ideas. Only people willing to work for it can transform those ideas into actual art. Ideas are easy. It's the work that it takes to bring the idea to life that makes it art. That's what makes art special. It's difficult to produce. AI takes the story and effectively the art out of it. if people no longer have to learn to write, or draw to draw, or paint to paint, or farm to write about farming, then the art or the farms suffer. Now, maybe that's dramatic. Our art is creative by its very nature, and artists will find a way to endure even under more and more doubt and scrutiny. So although this is an incredibly disappointing time in art and farming and information and all of it, I am hopeful for the art and farms that will come out of it. The true art, sans AI, but with a story, will be incredible. It will be harder for artists to create now with fewer opportunities, but I hope they will find a way, as they always have, to create said art. How will we know it's done by humans? Well, I guess we'll know when it's maybe more, there's the actual story behind it, a great one. Moreover, when someone tells you how to farm, you will know because they will do it from a place of knowing, with a story, with a context, with having actually touched the soil, smelled it, and being able to hand you something that you can eat, or maybe smell if it's a flower. That one's confusing. And we'll have to be fine with that because we're not given any choice in the matter. Anyway, enjoy the journey to becoming a farmer, gardener, or an artist, or all of the above, hopefully. Enjoy the hard work and the long time it takes to get good at it. The journey is the important part. Skills, not money, have the actual value. So embrace that. And I think that is it for this Friday, sending you off into the weekend with something to be annoyed with me or with the world about. Either or both, that's fine too. Meanwhile, though, don't forget No Till Growers is a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That is an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife Hannah for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear so I can get a sip of tea. Pick up a hat. I dropped one. Any of these hats at notillgrowers.com to help support our work. Or you can pick up a copy of the Living Soil Handbook at notillgrowers.com to support this work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of April, you get a shout on the show. So big shout outs today to Bill Price, Alex and Oliver, Dwight Yoder, Bill King, Doug, and Ian at Grindstone Farms. Big shouts to all of you. All right, so with our story this week, Tom, with an H, had so many questions. You know, why did this dream world exist? Why was he able to be inside of it? How could he get, out of it? How could he get proof to take out of it? So he grabbed for his phone, but it wasn't there. Nothing was there. The trees around him, though, started to fall. He wasn't really sure what was going to happen. He was in a dentist office, and now he's in the woods, and now the woods are falling down. This wasn't a specific dream he'd ever had, so he wasn't even sure if this was a dream. Then he sees it. A giant beast, just this big, hairy sort of wolf thing is chasing him, and it's stomping its way through the forest. And so he runs. The beast is right on top of him at this point, and he realizes this is something he has been through. Who hasn't been chased in a dream? He hasn't had this exact dream, but he's been chased many, many times before, and he knew exactly what would happen when the beast caught up to him. He would wake up. So he stopped to face the beast, and sure enough, the beast opens its wide jaws, and Tom's heart is pounding as its mouth comes down over top of him, and he wakes up, and he's in a cave. It's cold. His heart is racing. Next to him is a book, and he picks it up, but he can't make out the title. It's all just jumbled. And then he sighs. Thanks for watching and or listening. Enjoy that weird story. We'll see you on Monday. Bye.